Look out, Universal, the Brits might actually beat you to the punch on this whole Dracula thing.
Ladies, gentlemen, geeks of all ages, you are now entering BJ Shea's Geek Nation. Welcome.
Hey guys, Chris Walker here, Walk Like a Flan with BJ Shea's Geek Nation, back again with another episode of On the Couch with Chris. I know you guys were probably all expecting me to come on here and talk about how Star Trek Discovery finally has a launch date. Normally I would say you'd be spot on about that, but I've been told different things about launch dates before, particularly with Star Trek Discovery, and I don't want to jinx it. Shh, I'm not going to talk about that today. What I am going to talk about, though, is another article I read online about Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat are in talks now to develop a Dracula television show for BBC. You might know Mark and Stephen, if you're on a first-name basis with them, from little shows like Sherlock or Doctor Who, produced for the BBC as well. This is pretty exciting for me personally, only because I've been interested in vampires in general and Dracula in particular for a really, really long time. Almost since I started reading my own books back in the day. And it's got me thinking about some of the other iterations of Dracula. One of the oldest and scariest memories that I have, the image of Max Schreck as Count Orlok in Nosferatu in the old silent vampire movie. And that image of Count Orlok has stuck with me over the years, and it's something that always creeps me out quite a bit. Anytime I try to watch that again, or I see pictures or something from it, or when I went and watched Shadow of the Vampire, the Malkovich, Willem Dafoe thing that was like the making of that movie, that always creeps me out. And I've always been kind of fascinated with vampires because of that. I think was the first time that anything like that ever happened. Plus, I used to watch the old Hammer films on Sunday afternoon, movie theater time. They'd show Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. They used to swap back and forth between who was going to play Dracula and who was going to play Van Helsing in those old Hammer films. If you haven't seen those ones, go check them out. They're a lot of fun too. Started reading books about vampires and about Dracula after I read Dracula. It's a well-covered topic. I mean, there's a lot of material out there between the books that are about Dracula, which there's a ton of them. But I also read a lot about vampires in general. I mean, there's a lot of material out there that's not Dracula, but it's still vampires. So many books out there. I mean, Salem's Lot is a great one that Stephen King, love that. As well as a number of sort of non-fiction books, which are sort of research into the mythology of Dracula and vampires, and there's some really great ones out there as well. And you've got TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, Dark Shadows, plenty of vampire movies out there. It goes all the way into role-playing games. Vampire the Masquerade, the Ravenloft stuff from Dungeons & Dragons. Very, very well covered territory. Not a lot of actual details or information about what the Gatiss-Moffat series might look like, or whether it's even going to be set in modern times or in the late 1800s, which is when Dracula was written. 1897, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'll confirm that and get back to you. Just a few years ago, NBC tried to put Dracula back on TV with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in the title role, and I liked it. I had a lot of fun with that show, but I think not very many other people liked it because it didn't last for very long. I think it was only on for a season, 10 or 12 episodes, and which was unfortunate because Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, for my money, was an excellent Dracula, but I think people just they weren't that interested in a period piece at the time, and I'm not sure whether or not this Gatiss and Moffat thing is going to address that, but maybe setting it in modern times might sort of alleviate some of that. There have been a lot of attempts to sort of modernize Dracula, Love at First Bite, Dracula 2000, things like this, where they've always sort of contemporized Dracula to mixed results. I mean, there's been various levels of success with all of those things. I'm really hopeful. I mean, you've got a couple of great guys on this project. So one of the more interesting things that I thought that this sort of, what this means for the world of entertainment and for the world of geekery is the fact that Universal Studios has been relaunching their whole classic movie monster thing. They started with The Mummy. They're going to be moving forward with this, using Jekyll and Hyde to sort of tie it all together into one universe. And Dracula is obviously going to be a part of that. Curious to see whether or not that the BBC could get their TV show out first before Universal gets around to their Dracula movie, and to see whether or not there's a conflict there, or whether people watching the Dracula TV show will be more likely to go then and see a Universal monster movie about Dracula. I don't know. I'm excited to find out, though, because this is a great time for me. I loves me some Dracula. Well, that's about all the time I have for now, guys. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know about your favorite vampire story, your favorite vampire book, movie, TV show, whatever it is. Let's talk vampires, because I got a lot to say on the subject, believe you me. And until next time, stay nerdy. this guy. Am I right?